Hello, everyone. Welcome back. As you can probably hear, I am currently sick, so the audio on this is probably going to be awful. My voice, I feel like, sounds super nasally and just, but please bear with me because I'm off sick today and I spent the entire morning researching this case and I wanted to bring it to you all. So I have some water here to keep me hydrated, and we're going to jump right into this case because it is fresh. It just happened a couple weeks ago, and I think we really need to talk about it because this case is very disturbing and odd. On September 10th of this year, 59-year-old Debbie Collier would be reported missing in Athens, Georgia, and she would be reported missing by her adult daughter and husband. And this call would be placed to police after Debbie's daughter Amanda received a Venmo from her mother for the amount of $2,385. Along with that was a note linked to that Venmo money that read, "They are not going to let me go. Love you. There is a key to the house in the blue flower pot by the door." So who is Debbie Collier and what happened to her? Debbie Collier was a resident of Athens, Georgia, and she had worked as a front office manager for years at Carriage House Realty in Athens. I also seen that she also had another son, as well as her daughter, Amanda, that we're talking about today, but I didn't really see anything about the son. I'm assuming both of those children were from a previous marriage because in 2013 is when Debbie married a man named Steven, and Steven is the man that she's lived with for the last 9 years. And then the other person we're going to be talking about a lot in this case is her 36-year-old daughter, Amanda. The day prior to Debbie's disappearance on Friday, September 9th, Steven told police that the last time he seen his wife, Debbie, was at around 9 p.m. when they were both going to bed, and that they both slept in separate rooms because he snored a lot. The next morning, on Saturday, September 10th, Steven got up to go to work, but he can't confirm whether or not Debbie was still sleeping, but he did say that her vehicle was still in the driveway. And again, he can't really confirm because they slept in different bedrooms, so it's not like he got up and went and looked in her room, or he at least he didn't say he did, but he did say that he seen this vehicle in the driveway. And this was actually a rental vehicle because apparently Debbie had been in a car accident prior to this event, and so she was currently driving a rented black Chrysler Pacifica that she had gotten from Enterprise. So that black Chrysler was the vehicle that was in the driveway when Steven left for work in the morning. Now, it's also reported that Debbie was suffering from a bad back. It's not confirmed that she got this injury due to the car accident she was in or what it really has to do with anything, but it is noted that she had a bad back and that she had a hard time walking for distances because of it. Now, it seems pretty unclear what happened after Steven went to work that led to this missing persons report for Debbie. All we know is that later that day at 3:17 p.m., Amanda received that Venmo notification. Now, if you see the screenshot I have up on the screen right now, it says that this Venmo was sent by Steve Collier, but apparently Debbie and Steve shared both their Facebook account and a Venmo account, which I don't find that odd at all. I have a lot of older, great aunts and uncles and cousins that all, share accounts together because Facebook came out when they were already married for years and years, so they just made an account together. They never really had separate accounts. But personally, what I find odd is the amount of money that was sent and the cryptic message that went along with it. Why was $2,385 sent? Why that specific amount? And why would Debbie send such a cryptic message to her daughter? Well, after reading that message, Amanda decided to attempt to call her mother because she was a little freaked out by it, and her mother did not answer her phone. That's when soon after Debbie would be reported missing to Athens Clark County Police. Now, things aren't just strange because of the Venmo transfer. Amanda would later tell police that her mother left the home that day with nothing but her driver's license and a debit card. And this is directly in the affidavit. I have so many questions with this one. And a lot of it stems from this confusion whether Amanda was currently living with her mother and stepfather or if she was living with her boyfriend that I'm going to be discussed a little bit later. But if Amanda seen her mother leave the home that morning, that means she was in the home that morning, clearly. So I don't know, maybe she came over early in the morning, but I don't understand then why it isn't stated by Amanda oh, I came over at 8 a.m. and then my mother left at whatever time, and that's when I seen her leave with the debit card and her driver's license. Now, the driver's license and the debit card also is another point of contention for me. In this day and age, people carry their phones everywhere. I personally take my phone with me just to go throw out the trash or just to go, downstairs to this little store that's near my building. I literally just bring my phone to have it just in case of emergency or I get a notification, my husband tries to call me, just something. I always have my phone on me. Now, I know that Debbie was 59 years old. She was a little older. Maybe it's a generational thing, but I just don't see in this day and age in 2022 people not taking their phones places, let alone her purse. Why would she leave the home in her vehicle and only bring 2 items, a driver's license and a debit card. I guess I could understand if she was just gonna go down the road really quick to go grab something, you just want your driver's license just in case you got pulled over, and then you need your debit card to purchase whatever you're gonna purchase. But why wouldn't Amanda then say, my mom was just running down to the gas station to go get, I don't know, cigarettes or something, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't there be more to the story? Why was it, I seen her leave with these 2 items? Now, unless there is more information that the police are just not giving the public. But why she would leave the home with just those 2 items, and how Amanda seen her leave the house with those items, but there's nothing else to that story. Now, to add into that, if Debbie did leave the home with just her debit card and her driver's license, how did she send that Venmo transfer to Amanda if she didn't have her phone? Again, very odd. None of this is making sense. So Debbie is now reported missing. Later on that day, a search was launched to try to find Debbie. Now, I found this really smart police work, but the police attempted to locate her by tracking the Sirius XM radio in her rental car, and it ended up working because the next day, police were able to track down Debbie's rental vehicle. The satellite radio would lead police 60 miles north of Debbie's home to US 441 near Victoria Home Lane near Tallulah Falls, Georgia. Now, as you can see on this map, it is a remote wooded area in pretty much the middle of nowhere. I did a little digging on Google Maps, and Victoria Lane is off of a highway, that US 441, and the Google Maps car never went down the road, so you can't really directly see onto it. But according to Google Maps, it branches off to the left and the right. And if you make a right, it's going to lead you down a longer portion of the road. And since you can't actually walk down the street on Google Maps, just from the overhead view of this street, you can see there's a thrift store at the entrance of the road. Other than that, it just looks like there's graphics for houses and other structures of some sort at the end of that road, but it's a dead-end road. Now, if you go back to the US 441 and we make a left, it looks like this is a dead end as well. There's a barrier across the road, and from the images that were released of the police cars and stuff, and Debbie's vehicle, it looks like this is where her vehicle was found. It was on this left side of the road. And this side of the road is actually heavily wooded. So why was Debbie's vehicle found 60 miles from home in the middle of nowhere off of, this highway in the woods? Someone on the police force ended up notifying Amanda that their ping was successful, and this is in the affidavit. And this led Amanda to showing up on the scene, and she was reportedly hysterical and shouting that the car on the side of the road was her mother's. Now, once police looked inside of the vehicle, they found that the vehicle was actually empty, completely empty. And since they didn't find Debbie or any evidence inside of the car, they decided to call in canines and start searching the surrounding woods. Not long after, they would end up finding evidence of a fire. They would also find kind of an embankment, and along this embankment, police would end up finding a red tote bag along with a blue tarp, and these items would show signs of being burned as well. Now, as officers looked farther down this ravine, they would end up finding the body of Debbie Collier at the bottom. And the state of Debbie's body is just horrific. And it really is what makes this case even more strange. Debbie was found on her back, completely nude, and it appeared that she had been burned, particularly around her abdomen area. And her right hand was found to be gripping the base of a small tree. But where were Debbie's clothes? And why was she left naked and set on fire? And if Debbie had known she was in danger when she sent that Venmo, why didn't she attempt to call 911? Why didn't she identify who the cryptic they were in that message? Or give a description of her attackers? I don't know, it's just very odd. In the following days, police would announce that this was indeed a homicide, that there was no signs of, an unaliving or of a kidnapping. And that's where things get interesting. If it wasn't an unaliving and it wasn't a kidnapping, what was it then? Why would she be found 60 miles away from her home if it wasn't a kidnapping? In the following week, police executed multiple search warrants at locations directly associated with Debbie. And this is where things get even more interesting. The Habersham County Sheriff's Office reportedly said that the investigation indicated that the incident was drug-related, but they're not sure which parties were buying, which parties were selling, which parties were trafficking. This crime had to do with drugs now. So what happened to Debbie? Why was she involved with drugs? Who in her life is involved with drugs? Many people are looking deeper into the last people that reported to see Debbie alive. And the first person would be her daughter Amanda, especially since the talk of drugs is being brought up. Amanda actually has a record, and a very extensive record that goes back over 10 years. August 17th of 2021, Amanda was arrested in Franklin County for possession of a controlled substance. These charges on her record range from everything from battery to faking drug tests and fights with her boyfriend. One of the more recent incidents was in May of 2021, and it was a DV incident. I also seen, again, why I'm kind of confused where Amanda was living, because I seen in this article that Amanda and her boyfriend were still like living together, despite all of these DV arrests and reports and, all this mess. Yeah, I also seen that Amanda was living with her parents, so I don't know. However, I did see in one report that Amanda claimed that her boyfriend Andrew had broken into her home, screamed at her and attacked her, showing police bruises on her arms and her shoulder. Now, police, however, ended up arresting both Amanda and her boyfriend Andrew. They ended up charging Andrew with battery, and they ended up charging Amanda in the incident for a false police report of robbery because she shared the home with Andrew, so it wasn't really considered a robbery. As of now, it seems that both Andrew and Amanda have had both of their phones confiscated and have been interrogated by police, but they're not just looking at Amanda and her boyfriend, they're also looking at Debbie's husband, Steven. And that's mainly because neighbors have started coming out of the woodworks that lived on Debbie and Steven Street, telling their side of the story. Neighbors have now come out and reported that the night before Debbie disappeared, they heard fighting and screaming at Debbie and Steven's home. There were also neighbors that claimed that a young woman would come and visit on the weekends and the evenings, and when she would come visit, there was a lot of screaming and fighting at the home. On the other hand, other neighbors reported that Steven and Debbie were kind of like recluses. They didn't go out to any, neighborhood events that happened, and they would really just keep to themselves, although it seemed that Debbie liked to post it on Facebook quite a bit. Now, allegedly, of course, the neighbors' reports of a young woman coming over on the weekends to visit would kind of line up with what happened the weekend that Debbie went missing. Because if a young woman, possibly Amanda, was coming over on the weekends to visit, Amanda came over that weekend, it seemed like, to visit if she was at, Debbie and Steven's home on the Saturday when her mom went missing, if she seen her leave with, her two cards. It kind of just makes sense to me. So one more thing I want to talk about before I lead off with my final thoughts. There were images that surfaced from Debbie's Facebook from December of 2020 of herself, and she had posted photos of herself with a black eye. Now in this post, she wrote, "Look what I did to myself when I face planted on the concrete sidewalk. I do not have any eye makeup on the right eye." Now, this led people to wonder whether Debbie was also involved in a DV incident. But the Athens-Clarke County PD came out and said that there is no incidents reported that involved Debbie at all. Like, there's no records of anything like that happening. On top of that, I did see a lot of people online saying that they have also fallen in similar manners and had similar injuries, but then there's also the other side of the coin where it's like, sometimes when people are involved in DV situations, they try to cover it up and make a story and an excuse to why they have these injuries so that if other people see them, they're not questioning what happened to them. I don't want to start any rumors, but people are really talking about this Facebook photo, so I just wanted to include it in here just to kind of let everyone know that, like, the police have come out and said that there was nothing reported, but, sometimes things don't get reported. But as of now, with the information that we have, it seems like this Facebook post and this incident where she got injured doesn't have anything to do with her disappearance and murder. As people are looking at Amanda really heavily and scrutinizing her in this case, and we don't know whether or not she's involved at all at this point. And from the social media side, it looks that Amanda and Debbie had a great relationship. They commented on each other's posts, like really loving things. And after Debbie was found deceased, Amanda put out a really heartfelt message to the community. So although there are these things that are kind of sketchy and kind of make you question things, there's also the other side of things where it's like, maybe she did have nothing to do with it and she really is upset that her mother is passed. But then again, social media isn't always real. But then it makes you go back to think like, well, this young woman that kept going to their home and there was always fights and stuff, why were there fights happening? Why are the police saying drugs were involved in Debbie's murder? Like, it's all just so wild. So I really don't know how to take all of this now. And that's kind of all that we're left with. None of the family wants to talk, despite reporters attempting to ask for questions. The only comment they ever got so far was from a family friend who was reached out to for a comment, and they cryptically said, "There's a reason why we're keeping quiet." Everyone just seems on edge and scared. Like, what is going on with this family in this town? And despite nothing making sense before Debbie's body was found, all the events before that, the reasons, the speculations, the theories, none of that is solid or makes sense. What I keep going back to, the only thing that does make sense to me is Debbie's body. She was found naked and burned. Now, when a killer leaves a body nude, it usually means that they're trying to humiliate the person. And I think a really good example of that is the Alexis Sharkey case. Now, another reason that a body would be left naked would be because a killer wanted to remove evidence that were on their clothing. Now, again, Debbie's clothing, from all of my knowledge, has not been found yet. On top of that, the burning of her body. Burning is usually done, again, to hide evidence. So if you look at the state that her body was found in, there was that tarp nearby, the burning. Now, hear me out. This is going to be very graphic to think about, and I really hope this isn't what happened, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me. And this is my theory. This is just an assumption by me. I'm not saying this is what happened. But the only thing that makes sense to me is that I don't know what happened that morning or the evening before where there was allegedly fighting. But whatever happened, the killer thought that Debbie was dead. They remove her clothes to get rid of evidence. They roll her in that blue tarp. Somehow they got to the edge of that road in that forest, in that laneway. They decide this was a good spot to dump her body. They set the tarp on fire, thinking that she's dead. But Debbie wasn't dead. So some way, somehow, she's being set on fire and she's alive. She gets out of the tarp and she rolls down that ravine. And that is why she is found at the bottom of the ravine, holding onto the tree, trying to maybe either stop herself from falling any farther or trying to pull herself back up the ravine to get back to the roadway. But that is unfortunately where she succumbed to her injuries. Now, that is the only thing that makes sense to me, is how she ended up at the bottom of that ravine clutching that tree. Because there is no way post-mortem she would be able to grip a tree. And so she had to have died holding onto that tree, which is just horrific. Which means that she would have had to been burned while she was still alive. Just, it makes me sick thinking about it. And all of that leads me right back to the beginning, wondering who and why someone would want to strip such an unassuming woman who works at a real estate office naked, set her on fire, and leave her in a ravine. Who did this? Why? What kind of drugs were involved that this needed to happen? Why was there such a specific amount of money sent through Venmo? Like, would someone really murder someone over $2,385? And I know people have murdered for less, but it just doesn't add up for me. Were these people close to her involved? Or were none of them involved? But then again, that can throw you right back into, well, this wasn't a kidnapping. This was drug related. Like, it's just all of these little points in this case don't add up. On top of that, police still haven't released her cause of death, which I am very interested in. I'm wondering maybe she was hit in the head or something, and so they thought she was dead. They wrapped her in the tarp, set her on fire. She wasn't. Why would you leave this body set on fire in the woods and then walk away from it? And then leave the vehicle there so that people would know to find the body there? I really don't understand, if they were trying to hide the crime, why they would leave her vehicle there for police to find, why they wouldn't move it somewhere else, because the vehicle directly led to where her body was. If they had just dumped her body there, set on fire and dipped, and then she got up and fell down the ravine, whatever happened, like, I don't know. It's none of it makes sense. So what do you all make of this? This is not what I expected to be talking about while I'm sick on a Friday, because it has my mind spinning. So let's chat about all of this down below. I'm really curious how you all feel about this case, what you think about it. Again, I don't want to throw anything too crazy out there, because again, there's so many sides to this that it's just wild. I don't want to really bring up rumors that much. Of course, I did want to bring up the Facebook thing and stuff just because it has been talked about a lot, but it's just so weird. Who is actually involved and what actually happened here? With that, I will keep you updated if any other major, news comes out on this case. But for now, let's chat about it down below. With that, if you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified when I do post updates about this case. What I really want to know about right now is her cause of death. So I will keep you updated once information like that does come out. With that, let's keep Debbie in our thoughts, because if I know anything, it's that Debbie did not deserve to die this way. No matter what she was involved with or what happened, she did not deserve to allegedly be burned alive, if that is what happened to her, and be thrown in a ravine or left in a ravine. With that, I will see you all in the next case and in the next update.